Introduced to me while I was out there. I'm the head of program for the BTEC in quality. Is no longer going to be BTEC in quality, but and we sad about it, but we move on. We sort of have to part from our beloved qualification, but we also see this as an opportunity to build a better
smart CPUT.
Better qualification. So the BTEC has been offered. The BTEC in quality has been offered since I started. I was one of the first students. I think that was in 2003. And then we were a complement of, I think, 6 students. But since then, it has grown massively, exponentially. One year, we had an enrollment of about 150 students, close to, at the same time.
In my first year, we were 184. That was in 2009.
2009. But this qualification, you can move on. This qualification is primarily offered on a part-time basis. We tried the full-time offering, but it just didn't work because one of our subjects is a project which you have to complete in your company, and the full-time students are battled with their project. So close to 100% of our students are employed, and the average age is about 29 years old. We also have seen that the growth of the female complement has also increased exponentially, because many of them are, as we know, obviously aspiring for better management jobs. Most of them are there to improve themselves, so they pay for themselves. A small percentage of the student complement are sponsored by their employers. Okay, so as you can see there, one of the prerequisites is that you do have some work experience, which is going to assist you in completing your project. And there's about a 50% of them have a 5-year gap between studying for the national diploma and then coming onto the BTEC program. Carry on. All right, so many of them do not have experience on our learner management system or our Blackboard. And so if they do, they come in and they say Blackboard is offline, or they can't access their notes because they are so unfamiliar with the Blackboard or the online system. But many of them then later on, as they approach their second year, they prefer the Blackboard over the contact that we have, because it allows them so much freedom, also some anonymity if they want to complain about something, but critically add to that. Also, a small percentage of them do not have their own personal laptops, and also not Wi-Fi or data for that matter. So there are certain challenges that our students have, but we are aware of it and we acknowledge them, and so we take them all into consideration. So I'm going to give over to Bronwyn now for the next slides. Do you want me to carry on with us? Okay, so we have 7 subjects on our BTEC in quality, and also with the planning of the new qualification, we've only increased our subject content, subject complement to add another subject. So we have 8 subjects that we're planning for in our new advanced diploma. All of our subjects are on Blackboard, but to a varying degree, because we are 4 in the other lecturer is not here at the moment. We are 4 lecturers on this program, so we are slowly trying to get everybody on board. So the nature of the subject is that we have 2 numerical subjects, and Bronwyn teaches both of them, and we also have a lot of theory subjects. okay, with one research project or research subject, which is what we are, I think, where most of our students finally realize that online is the way to go, because they don't have to come and physically come and sit in with us, especially with them having projects at work or deadlines at work. They can actually set aside some time in their offices where they can try to communicate with the lecturer, either on Google Docs or on Blackboard. So we are not here to tell you what is available. We're here to share with you what we have done so far. And we may seem like we have everything under control, but there's always something new. There's something new.
Changing all the time.
Yes, popping out of the box that we have to go and sit around the table. We have to go and brainstorm. And even now, I said to Bronwyn yesterday, hey, we have to sit and think about the phase-in, phase-out process of our new qualification and how we're going to do that, even though we try to plan our new subjects close to our old subjects that we're offering, with obviously some new content. We still have to consider how we're going to phase out the old and phase in the new. And that's what we're going to do later on today. So I'm going to give over to Bronwyn, and then I'll later on the concluding slide, I'll also share some of my experiences with you.
Okay. Maybe used one of these, Daniela. Yes, no, indeed. Yes, so I have been a ardent Blackboard fan since 2013, and I've done lots of stuff, but none of it is really special. There's many people in CPUT that's doing all sorts of amazing stuff. There are pockets of excellence. They're scattered all around CPUT in various faculties, in various departments. But some of the stuff that I did is I started in 2013 by giving homeworks, Blackboard homework, simple multiple choice questions, and that was due to necessity. Our classes were really big. I had a class of 202 students, and I couldn't mark everything. So it started off as multiple choice students, and it evolved. Fees Must Fall propelled what I did. I just didn't have a choice when it came to Fees Must Fall. I was only 70% done with my curriculum, and then I moved everything onto Blackboard. So much so that in 2016 I had my first online assessment, so official, formative, FISA, not formative, FISA, formative assessment, and then also a final summative assessment. And my courses, since 2018, it's been, everything I see they're fully online, but I still have contact sessions with my students. In terms of marking, there's no marking that I don't need a red pen. And I tell the lecturer that one of the, well, not so long ago, about 2 weeks ago, and they said, no, I'm kidding. But it's true, I don't use a red pen for marking. All my assessments are online. And for me, the trick or the thing that you need to do is you just need to encourage your students. If you create the environment, then your students will follow. And the idea, I think, behind this talk here is it's not about me. I think what we're trying to promote now is the team, because I think what has been very valuable for my personal experience has been having this team, my team, come along. So we are a team of ladies and we support each other. And I actually latched on, this part of my presentation is latching onto something that Eunice was saying, and she mentioned something about assessment as learning, and in a talk that she had, and it made me realize, you know, it very strongly brought home the fact that Blackboard allows us to have assessment as learning. Assessment becomes learning experiences. Blackboard is the platform that facilitates that. Yeah, and then there were just a few tips that I had, well, which I was supposed to mention on the previous slide. The one was, once you start using lots of assessments in Blackboard, then eventually, just a tip is hide some of your assessments, because your grade center, when you've got a mark and when you've got to upload those marks, it becomes too much to, when all your assessments, all your homeworks and all your revision exercises are on there, it becomes too much to manage. And one of the other things that I also want to mention is when you create an assessment, immediately create it as a template, name it nicely, and then use that assessment as template so you're rebuilding all the time. Okay, so something I also wanted to highlight is when you using Blackboard for assessment purposes, constructive alignment is a very, very valuable tool. So when you create these assessments, it's important that you consider your outcomes. So what are your outcomes? I start with my outcomes. What are the practices that I'm going to, when it's, whatever, whether it's the teaching and learning practices, whether it's online practices, so like a webinar, or even discussion boards, journals, blogs, whatever you're using, those practices must be aligned to the outcomes. And then your assessment, you've also got to consider the way that you assess so that you can meet those outcomes as well. That's very, very important. I'd say good multiple choice. So in the next slide, I've actually got a breakdown, and that I'm not going to talk through that slide. Daniela, we're going to make the slides available for everyone. So in that slide, I've just basically broke down these different types of questions. There's a list that I made of different types of questions that Blackboard offers you. Those are the different types of questions that you can use. There's multiple choice, multiple answer, missing blanks, jumble sentence, all sorts. There's an assortment of different types of question types that you can have, and this is related to constructive alignment. And when you look at the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy, you can see that those questions support all those levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So a cleverly structured multiple choice question can actually support the create level of Bloom's taxonomy, which is the highest level of Bloom's taxonomy. But that people can look at your own time. And if you have any questions, please, you can mail me or contact me, phone me. Can we go back to the previous slide, please? Thank you. Yes. And so a positivistic approach. Don't be scared to give information. I find that what we tend to do is, if we want to move into the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy, we should avoid the positivistic approach where we're giving the students a little bit of information and then we're giving them a little bit more information and we're giving them a bit more information. We should actually be open to letting the students guide us. The way that we're assessing them, we should use the LMS to let them come on board and let them guide us on the way that we can assess them. So in that sense, case studies and problem-based learning, those are excellent, and there's these brilliant ways that you can use the LMS to do that, to enable that. So you encourage, don't be scared to encourage the students by giving them half right answers, and then thereby enabling critical thinking, letting them tell you what is wrong. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And so you can copy your tests and repurpose that. Moving on, I'm almost, okay, there are ongoing issues that I must quickly mention. I'm a big fan of the LMS. I would be lost without my LMS. I'd be lost. I'd be sad without my Blackboard. But there are issues. It's time saving in the long run. Let me upfront admit it's going to cost you a bit of investment initially. And your back end, that's something that I have to stress, really, really stress. You can have this beautiful Blackboard on the front end that the students see. But if the back end of your Blackboard is a mess, it's going to take you a long time to set up tests, to find things, to redo things, reuse your stuff year after year. So it's very important that you have a good filing system in your back end. We still need, because of the exams office, we still need hard copies. So I can't, as much as I promote it, I can't get away from the fact that we're still using hard copies. The exams office wants hard copies. And there's not a nice facility to do online moderation. So we moderate each other's work, but there isn't, and that's not a CPUT issue. I think it's an issue with Blackboard. There isn't a separate space. You can track any changes that happen in Blackboard, but it hasn't been designed so that there's a place for the moderator. Like if in a hard copy exam, you have the red pen that the examiner writes in, and then the green pen with the moderator, and then comments. So we have to find clever ways to get around that and make comments on the exams. Yeah, there's no easy way to do that. So those are the ongoing issues. Also, then just mention it, it's completely capable. of assessing research, I have done this, and I've actually used screencasts to give students feedback for research. There's rubrics. When you test theory subjects or when you test research, then you'd use rubrics when you assess them, and rubrics are fantastic. It allows you, the LMS allows you to give feedbacks and corrections like MS Word, and there, as I mentioned, I've also used screencasts, and I think that's the end of my story. Des, over to you. My beautiful colleague Des.
Any question in the meantime for Bronwyn before we start?
Okay, well,
I have a question. How do you set up, for example, specifically when you guys were engineering, if I think about engineering, I think about maths, right? And if you have a maths assessment, right, how do you set up an assessment like that and then let Blackboard mark it without it being a multiple choice?
beautiful. I'd actually like to show. I'd like to show. I could show you what I do, but what I do is I lecture statistics. So at the beginning of the year, I give these students a case study. I tell them a story about this factory, and it's called the ABC Cat Food Factory, and I give them lots of other fancy facts around that, and then I give them a real problem, and I give them, these are the numbers, this is the data that comes from this factory. So I give them this massive spreadsheet with, I think it's, and I build on the spreadsheet every year, and I've got about 12 different pages on the spreadsheet. And as I teach my content, I teach it around this case study. And when I assess the students, I ask them, based on this case study that I've given them, I ask them questions. So if the manager of this cat factory goes in and they go to manufacturing line 1 in this factory and they get the data of the protein. So I've made up the story about cat food and it contains certain minerals, it needs, I've made it up. So it's protein, citrate, sodium, tartrate. And they go and check the protein levels. How do they know how many products are in specification, out specification? So the students will refer to this Excel spreadsheet, and it's me testing the application. So they actually have an open book test. I'm not scared of them bringing in the textbooks and seeing the formulas, because they have the formulas in any case, but can they apply what I've taught them in class the way I've taught them the formulas? This is what probability is, for example. This is what probability is. This is the basic formula for probability. We go into this case study and we look at examples. We extract examples from this case study. But I can ask them anything, because the spreadsheet that I've built up, and it's over the years, it started off with just 4 sheets and now we've got 12 sheets. But I can ask them anything in the spreadsheet about that. And so they know that there's no way that they can memorize everything.
So now how do you allow Blackboard to mark something like that?
It does. So I use some numerical answers. I use some application answers. When they must analyze, once they've done a formula, say for example, and they come to the conclusion, I give them a list of 20 facts, and some of them are right, some of them are half right, some of them are totally incorrect. And I tell them what is all true when you come to the conclusion of this. There's lots of
So basically you don't have okay, so if I understand this correctly, for example, you give a mathematical sum of a case study, just a normal mathematical sum. So we know that 1 plus 3 is 5, we know 5 plus 0 is 5, we know 2 plus 8, 2 plus 3 is 5. So there's many ways or many methods or many ways to get one answer. So my question is, if every student thinks differently but the answer is still the same, how do you allow Blackboard to have an open mind to take into consideration every student's response?
That's multiple answers. So what you do with the questions...
But my question is, what if you have 50 students? You can't think how 50 students
well,
are going
what
to
happens
think.
is you go back and so you go back and you revise what you're doing all the time. But initially it does take time to set up all those answers.
That's what I figured.
So what you do is you start, and then there's many ways to skin a cat. I completely agree. But so that's what I do with my students. So I'll give them all these different answers and these half right answers, and then I'll create a space. there'll also be a space to say, well, if it wasn't that type of thing. So if you just sit down, and I'd be happy to sit down. Are you teaching a maths-based subject?
Yeah.
I'd be happy to sit down.
Numeracy in design.
Because at the same time, you're going to give me ideas, and I'm going to give you ideas.
Okay. I'm struggling. I don't, like I said, like I hear what you say, and I find it interesting because I am not a fan of using Blackboard for the specific
Come
reason.
visit me.
The time consuming and the
Come
effort you have
visit
to
me.
put in.
It's beautiful. My
That
colleagues
for
are
me
marking.
is
I'm done marking.
and I was telling her earlier that I would let the students submit things online, and I don't mark it online. I would rather let them give me the hard copy because I feel more comfortable because I don't have the knowledge, I think, or the space to do what you do because I don't think I'm more familiar with what Blackboard can actually do.
Yes.
So I think because the knowledge of what Blackboard can actually, what I'm exposed to is not there, so I'm very afraid to actually go further. You know, because when you do the Blackboard course, they only teach you the basics, and that's basically what you're stuck with. So you don't really know what it all can do.
There's a couple of what you said that I'm going to let you do in
Okay.
Is there a Blackboard online marking tool? Like if I mark for UNISA, I can make the ticks, the crosses, a comment bar where I could type in comments. They're not like that.
Yeah. Besides rubric. Like MS, like, yeah.
So there is, I'd like to know.
But that's an assignment, it's not a test.
That's
So
an
there's
assignment,
assignments
like
and there's tests.
So
that
there is a rubric where one can mark for
You
assignment.
create your own rubric.
and it's beautiful. You can read.
But do
Yes,
they
and
give you,
tick,
can
yes,
you-
and it comes. Yes.
you don't tick physically, you
You tick on Blackboard. I'll show you.
show me. Okay.
But once you actually see what Blackboard does, I don't think you're going to want to tick. You're just going to want to use the rubric.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you for taking time to listen to us. Yeah, I'm listening to this young lady, and, I'm basically listening to myself 2-3 years ago, not knowing what Blackboard can do for me, how it can make my life easier. And as Brodwin has said, we all know the hours that you have to put in at first, but in the long run, it makes things easier for you. So how have I started? I've tried. That's what I did. I tried, and with Bronwyn's help, she's very supportive. We have brainstormed. We work together. I come up with or rather I experience a problem, and the 4 ladies will sit together, we'll try and help each other and so forth. So yeah, how have I started? I tried. I think we should try, and my first try wasn't perfect. But yeah, I had to move with technology because what do our students love most? They love their phones most. They love their tablets and their laptops and things, They love the electronics, so we need to make use of that. Let us create the environment for them to start liking the academics as much as they like and love their devices, To them, it's a schlep to put their tablet down in order to go to a book. So we're saying, look here, just keep your tablet in your hand and engage with us. It's okay. RTC, resistance to change. Like Lucretia said, most of our students, they enroll after years of work, and many of them aren't very knowledgeable on technology. I've actually discovered one of my students did not know how to operate a laptop at all. And that happened during a test. But luckily, we could, support and be there for her, because that didn't, I knew she's an intelligent student, and I knew that her not knowing how to operate a computer doesn't affect her level of intelligence. So all I did was I told her, look, it's the same as you, because she's done the homeworks on her phone, on Blackboard, so she knows how to use her phone. But then when she touched the mouse, she held it wrongly, and I realized, oh my word. But then I just quickly showed her how to do that, and she read her way through. She could read, and that saved her. So yeah, so there's a lot of resistance to change because of those type of challenges, that they don't like the way that we present the course at first because it's very electronic. Yeah, but then what we do and what we've found help is that we are very honest with our students. We tell them, look here, we are new to it as well. We aren't fundis at it. We are learning as we go along. And they then take comfort in that, and they're very explicit in showing and pointing out our wrongs. And I mean, we learn by that. Yeah, pushing through, providing support. There can be a lot of resistance, especially the last time Lucretia and I, we were in the exam location, and we were trying responders lockdown for the first time, and things didn't want to work, and we had lots of challenges on that day. And I mean, the hour has come and the students are still struggling. And Lucretia tell me, Des, I think we should just give them the question paper and the answer books. I said, hold on, let's just push through. Let's try one more time. And we did. And we just took everything off and we let them write. And I told them, guys, you guys are working in responders lockdown, but they weren't. And they believed us. And it worked. But the next day, for the next exam was the following day. And then we knew, okay, the next morning we were there and we fixed it. And yeah, so that's what we did. So yes, you have to push through and be strong. It can be nerve-wracking at times. And then the fear of your own voice, I think I was like 7 or 8 years old, when they had those tape recorders, and for the first time I heard my own voice and I was so shocked. But then from there I moved away from it. I started to get comfortable with it. Now I do realize that there are still people who are still scared of hearing their own voice. And I think it's a thing. It needs support for people to get over that fear. I record every lesson that I do with my students. It's not perfect at all. All my verbal mistakes are included there. My first language is Afrikaans. So sometimes I stop and say, what is, I give them what is begin in Engels, and then they help me, and it's a verbal mistake. I leave it there. And they give their comments, and they are interactive. I tell them, look here, I'm going to start it now. And, some of them even stop me and say, ma'am, wait, are you recording? Yeah, I thought that was so cool. Anyway, so yeah, my big mistake. And then I made a very big mistake. I was trying out the assessments on Blackboard, wasn't very knowledgeable on it at all, but I tried. Like I said, I tried. And then I found that my students, this was last year, instead of studying, they studied a way as to how to cheat instead of studying their work. So what they did was they copied things onto their mouse, and then as soon as the test was open, they then just pasted the text in there. And I saw my my typos in my lecture slides, and the way that I've formatted. It's exactly the same. But luckily for me, the subject is application based. So the assessments, like the assignments that they get and so forth, and we train them on case studies. So we give them the notes, and they then need to write back as to from their own experience or in their own situation. So those who copied didn't do that. They gave me the notes, and I told them beforehand, if you only regurgitate the notes, I have no, I don't have to mark at all. You know, I can give you 0 if you do that. So yeah, many of them got 0 for that test. So yeah, that was the big mistake. I went back, said, ladies, big mistake happened. We all learned from that mistake. That's when we started seeking how to use responders lockdown. Responders lockdown didn't work smoothly at first, but we got around it. Yeah, improving my practice. I'm using Blackboard on the go every day. So that means I'm seeing my own improvements. Like Bronwyn said, you're not going to start out and be good at it. You're going to start out, I think you're going to start out and fail a lot of times, but you're also going to do good and improve as you go along. So don't be scared to make mistakes. Blackboard for me right now is the only way I teach, the only way I test, the only way I mark, and the way that we moderate. Moderation is still an area for improvement. What we do is we give each other access to our Blackboard subjects, and then we'll print out the question paper, and then, like if Bronwyn gave it to me, I'll have her question paper, and I'll go through the Blackboard test to check if it corresponds and things like that, and so forth. So that's how we do moderation at the moment. There's a lot of areas for improvement in terms of moderation on Blackboard, but yeah, it's a system improvement that needs to happen. So we're waiting on that patiently. Lucretia. Any questions?
All right. So my story, like I said, is quite simple because I teach theory subjects, and I thought, there's no way. Can't be. It's not going to work. A lot of work. So the input is a lot. It's almost like, I think, like preparing for a half or a full marathon. Mm-hmm. We have to do all of the work.
Yes.
Practice up front, and then take your vitamins and your supplements and do your stretches, and in order to actually achieve your goals. So it took a long time for me to get on board because of my theory subjects, and because of other administrative upheavals, administrative nightmares. So I was surprisingly proven wrong that Blackboard is accommodating. So and the more you, like my colleague said, the more you play around with it, the more you get used to it. So once you take it, like I said, once you take the time to play around with and be kind to yourself by admitting that you are going to make mistakes. So some of us have personalities where we really don't like to make mistakes because we're at a place in our lives where this, I can't tolerate this. So I have no time for this. It's just going to define me. Be kind to yourself and see it as first a 5K park run, and then a 10K, and then a half marathon. But this is how I see it. That you need to embrace the fact that you are going to have frustrations, because I think with the test that I set up, was it the QPI test or the test that I set up? I had different sections. I had multiple choice, I had calculations, and I also had theory. So the theory was hard for me to mark because I had to think of smartly incorporating the memorandum in order for me to for the system to help me mark the scripts. I also had 72 students in the class, and with curriculum officer and teaching and learning and all of the other forums that you sit on, when are you actually going to sit and mark all these scripts? And you have 5 questions per piece of paper times the 70. It's just a nightmare in itself. So so when you realize that you're not going to get it right the first time, I actually think then you are on the right track. If you can accept the fact that you are not going to get it right the first time. Because I believe that learning is ultimately our core business, and it is not for the students alone, it's for the teachers as well. Yes. So this is a learning institution for us also. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can just send it through to us.
Okay. So a few years ago, Daniela, I think one of the first times you asked me to speak, so I had 10 of the best. So this is a revised 10 of the best. And the last time when I spoke about 10 of the best, I said, if you lead, they will follow, but I was referring to the students. This time I'm not speaking about the students, I'm talking about your colleagues. So if you lead, they will follow. And you must trust your system. I think that is the biggest hurdle. If you can just get, for me, it was, someone needed to tell me, for me that it was a memorable incident in my life when someone told me, Bronwyn, either you're going to trust Blackboard or not, but make the decision. And it's when I made the decision to trust Blackboard that things started happening. Just like Excel. When I made the decision, I'm going to trust Excel, that's when I realized if there is something going wrong, then it's fixable. You're going to mess up. I think that's what all of us have said. You're going to mess up, but you won't grow otherwise. And if you stay humble, your students are forgiving. I found that my students were over-forgiving. They know. I stick my hand up and I say, the first time I did a webinar, I was really scared. I was really, really, really scared. I said, guys, look, we're going to do this webinar. I don't really know what I'm going to do if we're going to get this right. But we've done webinars since then, and my students have had amazing results, and they attribute it to the webinars. In the long run, I'm saying that it's less work, but you're going to have to invest. We spoke about that. I chirped at CPUT there. I said every time they change stuff, then we've got it, but it's fine. That's just a chirp, just because I love them so much. Change is inevitable, but we are one smart CPUT. That's what our VC says, and I firmly believe that. We should lead the charge. We're a university of technology. Change is our game, change is our strength. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's lots of people at CPUT that are willing to help. This has been my experience. There's a couple of people that I can name in different departments. The other thing is CIET and ITS can't tell us the best ways to do things. The truth is we're in the forefront. We face the students. They know the way that technology works. They're the experts at what they do. They're really brilliant at telling us these are the tools that are available. But it is for us who stand in front of the students, who have the student queries, who know the different ways that we, the needs of the students, the way that we need to assess the outcomes that we have. We should really be the ones that is taking the lead. We can't wait for them to tell us, do this, and tell us how to do what it is that we're doing. So we have to take ownership. And anything can be done in Blackboard. I mean, anything. Did the people at the back there hear? So Nwabo, did you hear? Anything can be done in Blackboard. And you got this. That's it. I think flight, my story is 8. Are there any questions? Any more questions?